Esteemed colleagues, we continue our working day. The spokesperson of the presidential administration on ATO-related issues, Colonel Motuzyanyk, greetings. The events that took place yesterday in the ATO at Lugansk direction, the enemy was violating the ceasefire only in the evening. There were shellings at our positions in Stanitsa, Luganska, Zhovta and Popasnyansky district. Twice Ukrainian forces had to respond by firing, and near Popasna the occupants were using the mortar. They launched 8 mines at our positions. During 24 hours in Lugansk direction there were 7 military shellings, one from heavy weaponry. Donetsk direction, mortar shellings were taking place at Svetlodarska, Arch and Avdiivka industrial zone. Besides that, the occupants were violating the ceasefire at the section of the front line Zaitsevo-Verkhnotaretsky to the south near Donetsk airport. Yesterday was quite quiet. The main military actions started after 4 o'clock p.m. During the mortar shellings, the enemy launched 70 mines at our positions in Avdiivka. There were 2 shellings between the forces of ATO and militants. Both lasted for 40 minutes. During the 24 hours in Donetsk direction, there were 15 shellings by the enemy, 6 using heavy weaponry, and there were 2 cases of snipers firing. Mariupolsky direction, the enemy, as before, is systematically violating the ceasefire along the whole contact line, but in the north, near Marinka, the situation has improved. The epicenter of combat actions is at the section of the front line Pavlopil-Shirokina. The illegal armed forces are actively using 82mm and 120mm mortars. Besides, the enemy renewed shellings near Dokuchaevsk. Yesterday, after midnight till the dawn, the occupants were firing at Ukrainian positions in Taramchuts. There were 21 military shellings registered in Mariupolsky direction during the last 24 hours. Also, the enemy organized 3 flights of the drones, one near Almazna, Avdiivka, and also along the route Glinka, Komsomolska, Starobesheva, Donetsk, Larina, Starobesheva, Komsomolsk, Pobeda. One of the drones was launched from the territory of Russian Federation. During the last 24 hours, in the result of the military actions, unfortunately, 1 Ukrainian serviceman was killed, 4 were wounded. We express our condolences to the families and friends of the killed servicemen. The losses of the enemy during the 24 hours, 1 occupant was killed, 7 were wounded. These are the losses of so-called 5th and 9th Brigade and 9th Regiment of Russian occupation forces. Also, the intelligence informs that another enhancement arrived from Russia to Debaltseva. 3 wagons with ammunition arrived, 5 containers with fuel, and 3 platforms with Ural trucks. The Security Service of Ukraine liquidated the network of informers of the so-called DNR. 2 persons were detained who were collecting the information on movement and location of the forces. The citizen of Toretskaya Tchaikovska who lives in the occupied territory was managing the informers. Besides, 2 more persons were detained by our law enforcers in Starobilsky district of Lugansk region because they were trying to join the bands of so-called LPR. Information about training. In the south of Ukraine, there are joint training of the Marines and artillery. They are working on the important elements of the security infrastructure, defense infrastructure. Also, the defense of the south of Ukraine is one of the priorities of the national security of Ukraine. The battalion of the special purpose of Donetsk region is trained according to the standards of Army special purpose troops. Now the servicemen are being trained in the Donetsk region. They are working on the tactics of actions and repelling the attack of the enemy in the open location. According to the legend, two groups received the task to check the locality and meet at a certain point for further assault at the positions of the enemy. The obstacle was the lake that they crossed by boats. And at the same time, the platoon of the National Guard servicemen from Dnipro had the tactical training on military shelling. The President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, awarded 74 servicemen with the State Awards of Ukraine. And these are people who were defending our territorial integrity and sovereignty of our state in the region of the ATO. 9 heroes received the awards posthumously. 2 servicemen received the orders of Bogdan Khmelnytsky of the 3rd degree, 8 the orders for courage, 3rd degree, 63 medals to the defender of the motherland. Any questions? Please introduce yourself. Tirka Chernomorska, please tell on Monday the mothers of the servicemen who are being imprisoned. They organized a meeting at the presidential administration. Then they stayed for 3 days and they spent nights near the presidential administration. They hoped that someone will come and tell them what's happening. Now they said that they went to Donetsk themselves to negotiate. What could you tell about that? What work is being conducted? Maybe after that you or Mr. Poroshenko would react. I can tell you that the liberation of our servicemen who are illegally detained by illegal armed forces is one of the main tasks, and that's under the personal control of the President. And jointly, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and the Security Service of Ukraine are putting all their efforts into to return our servicemen back home. I don't have that information, sorry. Thank you. Any other questions? Associated Press. Do you feel the deterioration of the situation in the east? And because in Crimea there's escalation of Russian occupational forces. Are any confrontations possible, taking into account the situation in Crimea? Maybe this will be happening in the south and in the east. Definitely what's happening today on the territory of the temporarily occupied Crimea could be related also to more active actions of the illegal armed forces in the east, but we do not see any serious deterioration. Unfortunately, the ceasefire is not observed by the illegal armed forces, but the number of shellings is at the same level as before. In any case, there are rotations of the personnel taking place. We're strengthening we are bringing more equipment, more fuel and lubricants and ammunitions, and also the militants receive more ammunition and fuel, but our task is to increase our ability to counteract, and also we are strengthening our reconnaissance actions. We need to be ready to any development of actions. Thank you, Colonel. Any other questions? Once there are no questions, that is the end of the press conference. Thank you. The next event